Good afternoon, everyone on the East Coast. Good morning on the West Coast, and good evening in Israel. Thank you for joining us today for our 2021 AGM. My name is Elena Latsky, CHW National President. Being that a quorum of the members is present virtually and that notice of the meeting had been duly sent to all members of the corporation and to the auditor, I declare this meeting to be duly constituted for the transaction of business. This year has certainly presented its challenges for us, thanks to the continuing pandemic. But your dedication to CHW is unwavering, and for that we are grateful. A couple of quick housekeeping notes. Further to the Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, for which members of the corporation are made up of the directors and officers of the corporation, it is only these individuals who may vote at this meeting. Members should raise their hand or use the hand icon on your screen to vote. We have the national directors on as panelists today, so we can see them. Secondly, there will be some motions passed later in the meeting, which are formalities for the corporation's minute book. As you will hear in our financial report later in the program, our organization has weathered the pandemic storm and is coming out the other side stronger than ever. We are also very pleased to share exciting updates about our projects in Israel, new initiatives that will continue to grow our donor base, and a renewed commitment to empower women across our country and in Israel. It is my pleasure to act as your MC today and to introduce the new Consul General of Israel in Toronto, Idit Shamir. Ms. Shamir began her term as Consul General of Israel in Toronto and Western Canada in August 2021 and brings a rich diplomatic experience from her service in China, Japan, Thailand, and Cambodia. Her most recent postings included Head of Special Projects at the Economic Division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and until recently, she worked on the economic implementation of the Abraham Accords. Please enjoy.
Shalom. I'm happy to have started my new role as Consul General of Israel. Shalom. I'm happy to have started my new role as Consul General of Israel in Toronto and Western Canada. For the next few years, my family and I get to call Toronto our home and have the opportunity to meet and partner with all of Israel's wonderful friends here. The consulate in Toronto is also experiencing renewal. We're incredibly proud to be the only Israeli mission with all female foreign ministry diplomats at the helm. I have a long-standing commitment to gender equality. Started in my military service, where I was teaching underserved women soldiers. Then, at university, I focused on gender and human rights while studying in law school. And starting my legal career, I worked as a human rights lawyer representing battered women in religious courts. Later on, I joined the United Nations as a program specialist in UNESCO, working with governments in Asia and Pacific on gender equality in education. As you recall, in September, we marked the one-year anniversary of the historic Abraham Accords. I was very fortunate to be able to take part in their economic implementations with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. The agreements brought about a paradigm shift in the Middle East and the Jewish state's acceptance in the region, one defined by the joint pursuit of peace, security, prosperity, and coexistence for our people. In a year that has been so difficult for so many, the Abraham Accords have offered a beacon of hope to the Middle East. For International Peace Day, Bahrain, Israel, Morocco, and the United Arab Emirates delivered a joint oral statement on women, peace, and diplomacy for the first time ever in the UN Human Rights Council. The initiative came with a strong commitment to the empowerment of women and gender equality. They say Israelis love democracy so much that we held the elections 4 times in 2 years. The new government brought about a record number of women serving as ministers in the Israeli cabinet. This milestone has created a new precedent for the Knesset and is worth celebrating. With these women in leadership positions, young women and girls have more role models to follow in making an impact on politics and having a seat at the decision-making table. I would like to take this time to acknowledge the important work done by Canadian Hadassah in supporting the education, healthcare, and social services for children and women in Israel by mobilizing partners from across Canada. The project Canadian Hadassah has initiated are great examples of how platforms can be created to benefit Canadians, Israelis, and the Jewish diaspora community. Thank you for the time you have volunteered to this great cause.
It is now my pleasure to welcome Professor Bertold Friedlander, affectionately known to us as Tolo, President of Hadassah Academic College, to share a very brief update with you. He will be followed by Aubrey Dan, benefactor of the Dan Department of Creative Human Design, who will introduce our guest speaker, Professor Dina Shahar. Professor Friedlander.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. CHW President Elena Laskin, Consul General of Israel in Toronto, Dish Shamir, CEO of CHW Lisa Cole-Kotler, dear Aubrey and Marla Dan, dear friends. I was warned to keep it short, so I'll do my best. So we at HAC are extremely grateful to have CHW as a strong partner in Canada and for your meaningful involvement in a number of departments and activities at our college. We are truly pleased to have this opportunity to provide you with a more in-depth presentation about HAC and the Dan Department of Creative Human Design. HAC is a unique institute of higher education in Israel due to its extremely diverse student body, which includes every sector of the Israeli population, including the ultra-Orthodox and Arab Israelis. The good name of our college has allowed us to more than double the number of students in just the last 10 years. Today, in our student body of 5,000 students, 74% of them are women. 80% of our students are Jewish Israelis, and 20% are Arab Israelis, with 40% of our students coming from outside of Jerusalem. We are very proud of our role in promoting women, many of them from families where are the first generation to pursue higher education. Close to 50% of all our students are first generation to academia. It is also important to note that the majority of our senior academic faculty are women. HAC is constantly seeking innovation in our academic departments and recently opened a new bachelor's program in health system management, as well as a new degree track in information system management. And we soon hope to receive final approval for our new master's degree program in early childhood development. This spring, we launched the Blender, HAC Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, so that our students and graduates could benefit from a framework in which to develop ideas that could have practical future application in business and in other realms of society. The Blender was founded by Dr. Talia Hadassah Blank, who lectures in our Department of Management, and is headed by Mrs. Tiferet Solomon. I am thrilled for us to be represented at this event today by Professor Dina Shahar, the only woman who has achieved the status of professor in the field of industrial design in Israel. Dina has an interesting personal story to share, and her work in the field of design is really the essence of what the Dan Department strives to achieve. Thank you all for your interest in HAC and for your ongoing support. We look forward to having you visit with us soon in Jerusalem. We miss all of you. For 2 years, did not have a chance to see anyone except by Zoom, and really hope to see you soon. And I would like now to invite Mr. Aubrey Dan for his remark and to introduction to our speaker. Thank you very much to all.
Good afternoon. My name is Aubrey Den, and thank you very much for the kind words. It is so nice to see you virtually. There's no question that Marla and I would love to be there again. I'm honored to be invited as a guest speaker at the CHW AGM. For those that don't know me, I was the first man while my wife Marla was CHW National and Toronto president a few years ago. That is my claim to fame. To provide you a little background to the connection that Marla and I have made to the Hadassah Academic College, HAC, it occurred when we participated in the 100th CHW Celebration trip in October 2017. We toured the college as CHW was forging their relationship. Both of us were very impressed with the leadership, faculty, and students as they come from very diverse backgrounds from what you heard of just right now. It was such a great pleasure to get to know Professor Bernardo Freeland, president of HAC, with his warm reception that still continues. The following year in 2018, we were approached for a naming opportunity for the Department of Inclusive Industrial Design. What struck us was that the academic program emphasized the principles of inclusive design with an emphasis of service design. The department is the only undergraduate department in inclusive industrial design in the world, focusing on the design of tools, instruments, products for the benefit of overlooked populations with special needs, including the physically challenged, the elderly, and the very young. Both Marla and I were very intrigued by this opportunity as we met with the faculty and we spoke to the students to really understand how they saw themselves and the kind of projects they were working on. We proposed a name change to Creative Human Design, which in our opinion really captured what the department was teaching, as the term industrial seemed outdated and not relevant anymore. Our donation to the Dan Department of Creative Human Design would provide scholarship support to deserving and qualified students, support guest lecturers, academic seminars, and conferences with colleagues from Israel and abroad, support workshops for improving teaching methods and approaches for faculty, facilitate international student exchange, and enable the department to pursue collaborative efforts with academic institutions and medical centers in Israel and overseas. In 2019, both Marla, our daughter Elise, and I returned to Israel on the CHW Unforgettable Mission. And one of the stops was returning to HSCC and giving out scholarships to those students that won awards for their creative design work, which was a thrilling experience for us. We got to see an exhibit of several students' projects displayed at the college, and frankly, we were blown away by the ingenuity and functional designs made for the benefit of humankind. Nothing gives us greater joy than seeing our investment into HAC is having such a profound positive effect on the future generations as the students become the leaders of society. Their success becomes our success. The students are very lucky to have some amazing professors and a team at HAC who will all want them to succeed in life. The more one gives in life, the more you get back. That message I'd like you to take away is the belief and desire to help those students to become successful, making us all successful. We are building the next generation to give back to others, to help build a stronger, better society for all. We all benefit when we help each other succeed. On that note, I want to thank you again for giving me the honor to participate today to share our CHW success story. It is now my pleasure to introduce Professor Dina Shahar, Associate Professor and Senior Lecturer of the Dan Department of Creative Human Design. And Dina is a designer and design educator. During the years of 2010 and 2018, she held the position of Chair of Inclusive Design Department at HAC, and she is currently a Senior Lecturer and Academic Advisor. You can read all about her extensive and impressive resume, but nothing beats the real deal than the real person. So here we are. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Aubrey, for your introduction, and thank you so much, Tolo. And good afternoon from Tel Aviv. It is really a pleasure for me to be in this event because my own personal journey is very much connected to Canadian Hadassah-WIZO. I started my journey in the Neri Bloomfield Academy of Design, that is WIZO Haifa. And approximately a decade later, I found myself at home in a Hadassah Academic College. And I had the privilege of joining the Inclusive Industrial Design department in its early stages, the department which grew and evolved to become the then Department of Creative Human Design. And as Aubrey mentioned, in 2010, I was appointed head of department, and I'm emphasizing this because in Israel, apart from Hadassah Academic College, there are other 3 institutions, academic institutions, which offer an undergraduate degree in industrial design. However, in 2 out of those 3, there has never been a woman in the position of head of department. And in the 3rd one, only a year ago, a woman was appointed to that position. So I think this is something for us, the design community in Israel, to reflect upon. Okay, so as the name of our department implies, we are human-centered, and I will share with you a little through case studies from our department what that means for us as design practitioners and as design educators. The word design is usually associated with the noun, that is designers, objects, designers, labels, trends, styles. It's about the products and about the outcome. However, for us as practitioners, design is the act of designing. It is the methods we use, it's our processes, and the process will determine whether we truly innovate. That is for us, whether we really generate value for our end users, or whether we merely reiterate and reshape existing products and design solutions. So just at a glance, for example, these 3 products were designed by 3 of our graduates, 3 women students. However, all 3 of them worked with their grandmothers from the initial stage of the design till its end. So this means that every detail, everything to do with the structure of these products is there for a reason, and it serves a certain physical, cognitive, or emotional need. The bag, for example, responds to ergonomics and issues of limited shoulder movement, as well as the decline in fine motor skills, and also addressing issues, concerns about safety and fear of theft. This was designed by Hannah Ben Youssef for her grandmother. The tableware was designed by Mickey Unterberg with her own grandmother and other ladies who reside in a care home for living people with dementia. And during her research phase, she learned that eating and the mealtime is an extremely complicated task for people with dementia, mainly due to the distortion in visual perception. There's a blurring of boundaries between objects and a confusion between the 3-dimensional environment and 2-dimensional images. For example, a carpet on the floor might be perceived as a hole in the ground. So again, the specific topographic 3-dimensional structure and the colored edges are all there for a reason to enable people with dementia to eat independently for as long as possible and with dignity. And Aubrey was mentioning the issue of inclusive design, and this design is also very comfortable for children or for the visually impaired. And the shoes, which looks very stylish, are in fact tailor-made orthopedic shoes, which address the deformity of the feet. So being human-centered means that we work with the end users, with our design partners from the initial stages of the project and throughout all the phases. It means that we embrace diversity and we perceive empathy and interpersonal skills as design competencies. These two colorful objects obviously take us to the other side of the spectrum, to children. And they seem like ordinary toys or storage units, but in fact, both of them were developed in a healthcare context. And they are some of the outcomes of a very special and unique collaboration which we have with Hadassah Hospital. It's a joint initiative focusing on design for healthcare with the aim of promoting the patient experience. It started in 2015, while Dr. Osnat Levtzion Korach was still Director General of Hadassah Mount Scopus, before she moved to Shamir Medical Center, which I know is also a beneficiary of Canadian Hadassah-WIZO. And as you can see on the right-hand side, it's a women's initiative conducted by senior medical staff from Hadassah Hospital and senior lecturers from Hadassah Academic College. And the focal point of the collaboration is an annual rehabilitation seminar in the hospital. As I was saying, it's long-term, it's not a one-off thing, and it's continuing. And of course, the project also expands to other departments in the hospital and to graduation products. And in the area of pediatrics, this project was designed by Doa Bulafia for the process of blood tests in children, with the aim of reducing the stress and fear associated with this test. And as Aubrey was mentioning, there is an object here, but it's the design of a process and of reframing a certain situation. So a syringe and wings. Why? Because Ido learned in the initial phases that exposure to the medical equipment prior and close to the test helps to reduce fear. In this case, it's a syringe. So when the child enters the waiting room, he picks himself one of those eggs, inside which he will find one of those creatures. So during the waiting time, the parent and child have something to do to distract their minds. And due to the little spring inside the syringe, the child brings the butterfly to life. It flaps its wings. And upon entering the nurse's room, she asks him to show her the butterfly, and the movement with the hand and the spring helps to expand the blood veins in order to draw the blood. And the conclusion is that when she when she removes the cap from her own syringe, she gives it to the child and it becomes a whistle. There's another added value to the object. So this was done in the pediatrics department in Hadassah with the nursing staff. And as you can see, the designer becomes a sort of socio-cultural interpreter. They have to understand all those involved, the medical staff, the patient, the caregivers, and the healthcare system. And we are very much encouraged to develop frugal design solutions, means things that are cheap and easy to produce and live for the hospital to use. And this storage unit is actually a mobile art therapy cart designed by our graduate, Michelle Rosenberg. And she learned that art therapy is considered emotional first aid. However, there are children who cannot reach the art therapy activities in other areas of the hospital because they are confined and restricted to their beds. So there is an issue of design inclusion and exclusion. So this cart was designed to enable the therapist to bring the activity to the child in his bed, to facilitate going through the condensed and cluttered corridors of the hospital. And for the child, it enables him to be comfortable in his bed. It can be adjusted in terms of angle and height. And as far as I know, this cart is still in use in the Children's Oncology Department in Hadassah in Karem. So I will conclude with teenagers and youth. And again, as Aubrey was mentioning, of course, we are expanding, our discipline is evolving and changing, and we are very much engaged in both service design and digital products. And talking about youth culture, of course, it can only be today with technology because they live in their smartphones. So this takes us to a graduation project from this summer, developed by Bat-El Belgazal, and it is called Sexplore. Sexplore is an app designed to promote healthy sexuality among teens. So this is a project which sits on the threshold between design and education. And it started when Bat-El saw that her own two teenage sisters in the picture, they keep asking her questions about sexuality, about relationships. And when she dived deeper into it, she realized that teens today are exposed to a lot of harmful, unhealthy information regarding sexuality, which brings to a distorted perception of relationships and intercourse. And on the other hand, the reliable information is not suited for young people. It is a very didactic, very technical, very dry. So there she saw her opportunity, and she defined the building blocks for the app as being, first of all, based on values. That is, all the information is intertwined with issues of reciprocity, mutual respect, and consent. It is gender inclusive, it is engaging for young people, and it is discreet. So it is built in terms of design as a journey. Anyone with the app builds his journey with his own stops on the way. And all the information is very diverse. There are chat options, there are games, there are fun questionnaires. And of course, all the information and all the way in which it is built in terms of content was done with sex education guides, with psychologists, with educators, and with youth guides. And in terms of the design, again, we never do something which is whimsical and subjective because we prefer it. The color scheme, the graphic language, everything was tested with the teenagers. She got the response, and they were part of the process throughout the development. I'm happy to say that Ladat organization is currently interested in developing and launching this app, hopefully soon. So I hope you got an impression of what our department is. And thank you so much again for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Professor Shahar. We have a few minutes, and if you don't mind, we would take a couple of questions if anybody has any. They can type them into the chat, and we would be able to ask you, since we're fortunate to have you live from Israel. Are there any questions? Let me see. Anybody have a question? I don't see any at the moment.
I'll ask a question. Professor Shahar wanted to know the use of the butterflies in the pediatrics department. What was the response of the patients? Were they more comfortable? Were they excited to see, these butterflies kind of coming into the room, and did it make the experience that much easier for them?
It's of course the object was, it had many different iterations. This is something that we keep doing. There were many iterations along the way until Ido reached this specific design, for which he got very positive responses. And again, not only from parents and children, but also from the medical staff. Because for them, it's something that makes the whole process a lot easier, because they don't have to struggle with screaming children. So it's also about making it more efficient, and of course more pleasant for the children.
I can only imagine. And I think as a follow-up to that, one of our participants today has asked if there's any plans to make these products available for sale and if you're exporting them elsewhere in the world.
Oh, wow, you've touched a very delicate, complicated issue. I think the big thing is how you actually keep the project alive and how you actually make it go into the world. So with our resources, I can happily say that a lot of our projects, actually our students leave them for the departments for further use. However, they haven't been developed as commercial project. And actually it's quite strange, because for instance, the syringes, Ido used expired syringes from the hospital. And it's a very cheap and simple product to produce, but it's like somebody has to take the glove and do it, pick up the glove and actually do it. So this is something that definitely we didn't find yet sort of the recipe of how to make that happen.
We have a couple of other questions in the Q&A here. Are there any plans to make these products available for sale?
We just asked that one.
Okay, we covered that already.
Yeah.
I wish.
How were parents and their wide-ranging views about sexuality integrated into the early research that was done on the sexuality app?
Oh, yeah, it's an important question. Actually, Batel also spoke with many parents. And apparently, most of them said that their children abstain from talking with them. I mean, they do not want to share, and at the same time, of course, they are very disturbed. So one of the features actually of the app is about encouraging the children, the teens, to go out back into the world. It does try to encourage them to seek help and to seek information, even from family, from reliable friends, and not in the media, not on the internet, not from this kind of sources. But the app itself, in terms of its characteristics, was done to address the world of younger people, while the information is, of course, moderated and checked by professionals.
Thank you. Here's another quick one, back to the brilliant butterfly syringes. Do the children take them home, or do you reload with a new syringe?
Oh, no, of course. It's for the child as a present. It's like a Kinder Bueno surprise egg.
So nice, so nice. Okay, go back here. All right. Thank you, Professor Shahar, for your very interesting presentation. You have done a wonderful job highlighting women in innovation and what the future holds for women in Israel. CHW is so fortunate to be supporting such cutting-edge institutions as Hadassah Academic College. Thank you again for being with us today. And I understand the hour is late in Israel if you all need to go, but you're welcome to stay with us for the rest of our program. I would now like to take the opportunity to recognize and welcome past national presidents that are with us virtually today. Marion Mayman, Claudia Goldman, Marla Dan, Debbie Eisenberg, and Marilyn Libben, as well as Esther Moore, president of World-WIZO. So thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your ongoing support. Now a little business. As president, I'm bringing a motion to approve the minutes of the previous AGM, which was held virtually on October 25th, 2020. You all received a copy of the minutes in the email that was circulated in advance. And this is a reminder, as we said before, that only the members of the corporation are entitled to vote, and those are the current board of directors. If anyone has a question or concern about the minutes, please type into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Just check if there are any. I don't see. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, can I have a seconder from those voting? Marcia Glick. Any discussion? Any opposition? Or abstentions? All in favor? Thank you. The motion is passed. It is now my pleasure to present some of the highlights and updates from our projects in Israel. That's Lisa's report. Okay, we'll give Jen a second to pull up the president's report. You'll get to hear the CEO report next. Thank you. Okay, so first off, next slide, in the area of education. One more. CHW will first discuss the Neri Bloomfield Academy of Design. CHW has signed a strategic partnership with Neri Bloomfield Academy as the college begins a new chapter through a merger with Haifa University under the leadership of Professor Shimon Amar. The college is receiving accolades and endorsement from the Minister of Education, Yifat Sasha Biton, emphasizing its importance in the academic world and for the city of Haifa. Neri Bloomfield Academy is set to become a design leader in Israel by promoting innovation and new technologies within key departments, including fashion design, architecture, and visual communications. Thanks to Fashion Blooms, students can enjoy cutting-edge technology and a revamped curriculum as they explore emerging trends, as well as material ecology and sustainable innovation in the coming year. Hadassah Academic College, Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. CHW Netanya Technological High School. The flagship patisserie program has expanded its training opportunities and services. The hair and beauty track continues to attract more students because of the combination of practical training and business skills that the students develop in the program. Over 75 high school students at Netanya Technological High School are thriving in specialized vocational training programs. The school is leveraging CHW's support to connect communities near and far. Recently, the school invited students from culinary training school in the Arab town of Tira. Netanya Technological High School was given special permission by the Ministry of Education to continue operating in-person classes during lockdowns. Hadassah Academic College, as you just heard, wonderful updates on. Hadassah Academic College is celebrating record growth of its student body. The college has more than doubled in size over the past 9 years, with over 4,670 students currently enrolled in BA and MA degrees this year. HAC will continue to offer a hybrid learning model to accommodate growth. This proved to be highly effective and allowed for more flexibility that students appreciate, especially since the start of the pandemic. CHW is excited to amplify and enhance support for women in innovation and entrepreneurship at HAC. While 70% of their students are women, only 20 to 30% of them are involved in startup activities. HAC continues to offer students an education that meets the challenges of the future. A recent achievement is the launch of the Blender, HAC's Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship for students, graduates, and faculty. The center has become an active player within Jerusalem's dynamic and innovative business ecosystem and supports students and graduates of the CHW Dan Department of Creative Human Design as they continue to develop and market their groundbreaking designs thanks to the very generous support of the Aubrey and Marla Dan Foundation. In the area of healthcare, Hadassah Hospital and Shamir Medical Center continue to battle COVID-19 on all fronts, leading innovative treatments and research alongside the rollout of a third vaccination campaign. Since the start of September, the daily numbers of new cases remains high, but steady at 7,000 to 10,000. The number of severe cases led to the reopening of 2 COVID-19 wards in both hospitals, with 65% of critical cases among unvaccinated Israelis. At the Shamir Medical Center, CHW completed its commitment to the Debbie Eisenberg and Gary Levine Pediatric Intensive Care Unit. During the pandemic, utilizing these state-of-the-art facilities with separate isolation bays made treating critically ill children a game changer for the hospital. The medical team treated several life-threatening cases of post-COVID syndrome in children. Several of those case studies will be shared as part of an international research project. CHW recently accepted a critical funding proposal for the new Institute of Pulmonary Functions and Diseases. With CHW's support, the Institute is also spearheading new research into the long-term impact of COVID-19 on survivors. Exciting progress is being made toward renovations and upgrades for the Institute, which will be a major department at the hospital. The hospital expects to double the number of patients treated in the coming years from 4,000 to over 8,000. Dr. Benjamin Fox, director of the Institute, shared the importance of having an advanced center of excellence of this kind at all public hospitals, but especially more so now during the pandemic. The extensive upgrades will help expand not only diagnoses and treatments for patients, but also additional pulmonary rehabilitation and follow-up programs for post-COVID patients. SMC is looking at the long-term effects of patients that have been discharged from hospital, 1/3 of whom experience chronic symptoms that range from shortness of breath, coughing, fatigue, and dizzy spells. Dr. Fox, an Oxford and Cambridge graduate who made Aliyah from the UK to Israel just over a decade ago, is also a faculty member of Tel Aviv's Sackler Faculty of Medicine. He contributed to the planning of the new department by designing additional functional spaces that offer better conditions for training and research, which helps to attract and retain medical talent. CHW should be proud to be providing this cutting-edge facility for the Israeli population. Hadassah Hospital. Mexico has officially announced the establishment of the first Hadassah Hospital in Latin America, based in Mexico City. Due to be completed in 4 years, the hospital will become a symbol of excellence in medicine, bringing Hadassah's high standards of medical care to Mexico. CHW completed its commitment toward the Labor and Delivery Department at Hadassah Mount Scopus, which provides the most advanced birthing facilities and care to mothers and infants. The new department has helped to attract more women to Hadassah Mount Scopus, ultimately providing an important source of revenue for the hospital through the Ministry of Health. One of the most common birth defects found in infants is congenital heart disease, 12 cases per 1,000 births, which is why CHW's support of the new Pediatric Cardiac Critical Care Unit is so crucial. The new PCCCU is situated next to Hadassah's renowned Heart Institute in one of the most advanced surgical departments in the world. Known for its innovative treatments and groundbreaking research, the Heart Institute was recently ranked by Newsweek magazine as one of the world's best specialized hospitals in cardiology of 2021. CHW is funding one cluster of 4 single patient isolation bays, which are especially critical since the pandemic. They feature 2 sets of doors, sterilization, and filtration ventilation systems. In the area of social services, our work through WIZO. The success of the SOS campaign has helped ensure that at-risk women and children affected by domestic violence are able to receive services and essentials in the year ahead. As of early September, over 100 children from WIZO's safety net communities and 25 children from WIZO shelters received back-to-school essentials, complete with school supplies and educational materials needed for the new school year. 80 survivors of domestic violence received special care packages and urgent financial assistance through the WIZO Safety Net program. The packages included basic necessities for the holidays, household and hygiene items, as well as gifts for children. Since the SOS campaign ended, World WIZO shared CHW's SOS marketing materials with its worldwide members. WIZO plans to adapt and disseminate some of the materials on November 25th as part of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. We support women every day as well at the Bat Yam Calgary and WIZO Women's Shelters for battered women and their children. CHW Nahalal Youth Village and CHW Children and Hadassim Children and Youth Village. On September 1st, close to 2.5 million students from kindergarten to grade 12 officially began the new school year with mandatory masks and COVID-19 tests. CHW educational partners have been working around the clock to ensure that students are able to safely return to in-person classes, impacting over 650 youth from around the world in Israel who call CHW Nahalal and Hadassim Children and Youth Village home as part of the Na'aleh and special programs designed for at-risk youth. Since the pandemic, CHW's priorities for children and youth have largely focused on 2 key areas: supporting youth mental health and ensuring children and youth realize their full potential. Through a variety of impactful programs aimed at minimizing educational gaps and expanding new opportunities for development, hundreds of youth from around the world and Israel are benefiting from CHW's support. All CHW therapeutic programs at Hadassim, the Healing Broken Families, Individual Counseling, and Music Therapy, have been renamed the Leah Zev Shilman and Joseph Zunia Shilman therapeutic programs, thanks to the very generous support from the Jacqueline Fisher Foundation. CHW Hadassim revamped their therapeutic programs and pivoted to online and hybrid sessions that kept teens connected with their parents. CHW Nahalal expanded opportunities for youth to build resilience through the agriculture track, giving them a much needed routine and sense of purpose during lockdowns. A revamped space for self-expression through music proved to be highly successful at engaging students during the pandemic. At Nahalal, we are funding graduate housing, which is a home for students with nowhere else to go. Our end-of-year campaign, called Home for the Holidays, will purchase all the essential needs to outfit the prefab dormitory. More details about the campaign will be sent with your Aura magazine in November. We hope that you will support our students and pick an item or send a Hanukkah card. Sorry, 1 second. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed the updates. It is now my pleasure to call on our new CEO, Lisa Colt-Kotler, to share a few words about her vision for CHW and the transitions to come. Lisa has been with CHW since March 2021 and has injected fresh ideas and fantastic changes in our organization. As it has been 1 year now that I've been CHW's pandemic president, as I call it, I consider Lisa's appointment to be a true highlight in CHW's story. She always has a can-do attitude and aims to remove all obstacles for giving that have already made a huge impact. It is my pleasure to work with her every day. Take it away, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Elena, and it is my pleasure to work with you as well and with our board. And I want to give a special welcome to all of our past presidents, to Esther Moore, and to our guests from Hadassah Academic College. We're thrilled to have 130 people registered for today's AGM, and so many of you here today on the call, and those who couldn't join us today will receive the recording. So thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second here. And I will tell you a little bit about our highlights over the past fiscal year. Just trying to make it, there we go. Highlights over the past fiscal year, as well as my vision for the coming, or the current fiscal year and the coming calendar year. So just these are pre-Lisa highlights. So I take no responsibility for the following items that I'll share with you, but they do give you a perspective of where we came from, and then you'll see in the following slides where we're going in the future. So this past July, August 2020, we had a summer campaign called Hadassah is Home. And that campaign raised $4,565. Remember that number when I tell you what this past July, August raised in our SOS campaign. October 2020, Elena Latsky was installed as our national president. It was the first time that the AGM was held virtually over Zoom. And Marilyn Libin was outgoing national president Marilyn Libin received a tribute farewell, and a new slate of directors took over. Our end of year campaign, November, December of 2020, called Spread the Light, raised $27,902. And in February of 2021, we held a major supporters event with Professor Asnat Walfish, Director of Obstetrics and Gynecology at Hadassah Hospital, Mount Scopus. It was well attended. In fact, that was my first official event, because it was the day before I started, and it was an enjoyable and very informative event. So March of 2021, I arrived, yay, and now things really start to happen. That being said, I inherited the annual campaign as it was, and it was called Support, Healing, and Transform Lives. It was already in production when I started, and I just picked up the ball and ran with it. We raised over $900,000, and during that period of time, completed the funding for the Labor and Delivery Department at Hadassah Hospital, Mount Scopus, and we completed the funding for the Debbie Eisenberg and Gary Levine Pediatric Intensive Care Unit, or PICU, at Shamir Medical Center. oops, I'm going backwards, sorry. April of 2021 was when I really started to push my sleeves up and get a sense of the organization and where I wanted to start changing the direction. We focused on some rebranding, and you can see from the slide here the past logo that we've used for many, many years and transitioning into our current branding, which was strategically intended to show the integration between our organization, Canada and Israel, and overlapping the W, which signify the fact that we're a women's international Zionist organization. So that was very strategic. And the entire logo was designed to highlight a more modern and fresh approach, something that would appeal to a younger generation, as that's our future. We started to rebrand all of our communications. You can see from the iPhone, we rebranded our social media platforms on Instagram and Facebook. We started a TikTok page, excuse me, a TikTok page. We're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn. And if you've been on our social media pages, and I hope that you are, and I hope that you're following us, you'll see that our social media has changed. A lot more faces of people, either those who are currently engaged with the organization as donors and volunteers, or those who were supporting and the recipients of our support. We have our website in progress. You may have in the past found our website a bit cumbersome. It's not mobile friendly. There's so many things that need to change. It's certainly under construction right now, and we hope to launch it before the end of the year. As well, in April, we started restructuring. There were some internal staffing changes, some long overdue promotions of staff who were being underutilized and and not really getting the accolades and the recognition they deserved, as well as the increase in job descriptions and so on. So we made some staffing changes. There was termination and some new hires so that the entire organization from coast to coast would be operating with more of a focus on philanthropy and working more as teams, starting to have more team meetings across the country over Zoom, as well as regular staff meetings, and really getting people talking. Staff had in the past not really connected as teams, and this was something I wanted to change going forward. As well as event strategies, looking at all of our current events, where we could actually make changes to provide efficiencies, where there were events happening in centers in the country that could be expanded to other centers and scaling things up. So that's something that we looked at that creates more cohesiveness and again, breaking down those silos, creating those efficiencies, taking some pressure off of our limited resources because we could scale things up. An emphasis was put on donor relations and stewardship, looking at best practices and how we could employ them in a more effective way in our organization. Financial management was a big key function that I spent a lot of time on and hired a new director of director of finance and operations. And working with our governance committee, we've been updating and revising all of our governance documents, policy manuals, and bylaws, etc. May of 2021, we launched Fashion Blooms. This was the inaugural event of what we intend to be an ongoing, sustainable event for the organization. We showcased graduate students from the Neri Bloomfield Academy of Design and featured Israeli designers to a Canadian audience. We were very fortunate that the event was hosted by Jeannie Becker, and in our first year, we raised over $100,000. The event actually is still on our YouTube page. If anyone has not had a chance to watch it, it's available with full access. And the event also featured a tribute to immediate past national president, Marilyn Livin. Oops, there we go. June of 2021, we held a major supporters event called Life in a Post-Pandemic World with Professor Yoram Weiss. Professor Weiss was appointed interim director general of Hadassah Hospital a few weeks after the event. It was also a well-attended virtual event. July of 2021, I was appointed CHW's first ever CEO, and it's a privilege and an honor to hold this title and to be able to set the course of strategy for the organization and our future. August of 2021, we launched our first ever matching gift crowdfunding campaign called SOS, which stands for Starting Over Safely. This campaign really resonated with donors and volunteers from across the country. In only 24 hours, we were able to raise over $300,000. And if you recall in previous slides, I mentioned that our past summer campaign raised over $4,000. So this was a significant jump over previous years, and clearly a strategy that not only engaged lapsed donors, but new donors. It brought the country together from coast to coast. It brought volunteers together, all for a common purpose. And most importantly, this national campaign empowered victims of domestic violence and inspired women across the country. And as Elena mentioned previously in her presentation, WIZO was very impressed with our materials and strategy and will be adopting them internationally. September of 2021, we launched our new Legacy Circle campaign called Connect with Your Roots. The Legacy Circle, of course, has existed for a long time, but what we did is we enhanced the recognition benefits with this program so that our donors felt more connected with their roots. Their families will really feel the lasting memory of their loved ones. And in doing so, when our Legacy Circle members pass, a fruit-bearing tree will be planted at one of our 2 youth villages in the deceased memory, connecting their legacy with the homeland in Israel. A Yortzeit prayer will be read aloud at Hadassah Hospital Synagogue at Mount Scopus, where the Chagall windows are beautifully adorning the synagogue. And we also invite our Legacy Circle members to share in writing, verbally, or through a multimedia art project that will be presented through a virtual workshop led by an artist and planned for spring of 2022. We want to build our Legacy Circle members' collection of stories to share with generations to come. And if you'll indulge me for a moment, I just want to play a short video for you, because I think that it's important for you to understand more about our Legacy Circle program. I'll just share sound. Here we go.
We know you share our vision of a better world. As your partner in philanthropy, CHW can help turn your vision into reality. It starts now and continues with the legacy you leave behind. It is a seed you plant today that grows into something strong, something that will help make a difference in the lives of so many women and children in need. Through the lasting friendships you've built over the years with CHW and our vital projects that have touched your life, together, we can become part of your extended family. Making a planned gift to CHW allows you to take care of your extended CHW family while still ensuring the future of your loved ones. Consider a planned gift to enjoy significant tax and financial advantages while providing financial security for our projects in Israel to sustain them for generations to come. Your giving lives on by changing lives, providing hope, and building futures. a fruit-bearing tree will be planted at one of our youth villages in your memory, providing sustainability, sustenance, and financial security. The roots of your tree will connect your memory with our homeland and the legacy you created at CHW. Your legacy will live on. Learn how you can become a member of our Legacy Circle today.
I hope that many of you will learn more about our Legacy Circle program. If you have questions, I encourage you to speak with me. I would be glad to talk to you about it and how we can bring you into our circle and share your legacy with our CHW family for many generations. Oops. In October of 2021, we signed a partnership agreement with CHW Neary Bloomfield Academy of Design, and CHW will be the sole representative in Canada of this very important institution. We also held the first meeting for our investment committee to implement best practices for the CHW Endowment Fund. You'll hear more about the CHW Endowment Fund in our auditor's report. So this is the cover of the Aura magazine that you'll all be receiving in the mail in the coming weeks. It'll be circulated mid-November. It'll showcase the new brand of CHW. I'm really proud of it. There was a lot of work put into not only the restructuring of it, but the stories, the photographs. It was painstaking, but it was worth every second of time because it really reflects our new brand and the fresh and modern and the nature of who we are. We're featuring change makers of a much younger generation. We'll be featuring ways that you can make a gift to the organization that makes your accessibility that much easier using QR codes, stories about our projects and those who, like at the Hadassah Academic College, who are really making a difference. And I think you'll be proud and excited to read the magazine. It'll be mailed to you along with our catalog, our giving catalog for our end of year campaign, Home for the Holidays, ways that you can make your impact for the dormitory at Nahalal Youth Village and help to outfit it with all of the essential needs that the graduate students require, like bedding and toaster ovens and appliances and so on. There's various price points, and you can mail in your gift, or you can access all of these items online to make a gift and do so in honor of someone for Hanukkah as a Hanukkah gift in their honor, and send a card as well. This month, the month of November, which starts tomorrow actually, we will be holding our first ever Scotch tasting event with a male chapter. This chapter is the Elon Ramon chapter of the Hebrew Order of David organization, and we've partnered up with them. The proceeds of the event part of the proceeds will be coming to CHW, and we're really excited about this strategy of engaging men to support our organization. And this is just the launch of one of many new fundraising strategies. In the Aura magazine, you'll be able to read about a new program we have called True Real. This is an online shopping platform that allows CHW to receive up to 5% cash back on all of your purchases. There's no cost to you as the donor, and you receive a full tax receipt. True Real's merchants cover the cost of your donation. All you have to do is go on to trueshopglobal.com, and many of the name brands that you're familiar with will be on the site. And start shopping for the holidays and register your gift, your donation back to CHW. We're registered on there as a charitable recipient. and you'll be able to make gifts back to CHW, receive a tax receipt. You can also do so in person when you're at any of these merchants, as long as you advise the merchant that you want to do a cashback to CHW. All of the information is available on the True Real website. And if you have any questions, by all means, reach out to our office. We'd be happy to explain to you how it works. But this is a great way, a new strategy for CHW to receive donations, and it will certainly not be something that's difficult for the donor to provide. So it's another add-on way for you to be able to make a purchase and help CHW. And I want to also, I'm very excited to share that we will be launching our first ever online bazaar. So Boobies Charge Your iPads, and coming to you this next year in the fall around this time will be the first ever Canadian Hadassah-WIZO online bazaar. Very exciting details to share in the coming months, but long overdue to bring back bazaar in a cost-effective way that will help to engage the organization from coast to coast, make vintage cool again, have your daughters and granddaughters and members of your family who so badly miss bazaar and so fondly remember it to be able to re-engage with us in this very special way. We are planning a journey for impact to Israel, investing in a sustainable tomorrow. You'll also read more about this in your Aura magazine. So hold the dates of October 22nd to the 27th, 2022, this time next year. And you'll have the option of participating on one of two tracks to either be a leader or an adventure seeker and join us in Israel. This is going to be a trip of a lifetime with limited availability, and we hope that you'll participate. On this trip, we'll be launching our Social Impact Investment Fund in Israel, and we're excited to share more about how this fund will work, but donors will have the opportunity to select a social enterprise and support local entrepreneurs, and in doing so, be able to provide a hand up instead of a handout to those who so need our support. This is really exciting, cutting edge stuff, and we're happy that we'll be one of the first Jewish organizations in Canada that will be able to provide social impact investing through a gender lens. It's also part of our future, and it will engage a younger generation of supporters and certainly helps to highlight sustainability of our organization. So what's next for CHW? All these exciting things, but there's still more. So here we go. We will be planning a strategic plan for the next 5 years. Starting in December, the board of directors will meet to talk about goals for growth, succession, sustainability, and really map out our vision, modify our mission, and make us more relevant to a new generation of supporters. We're committed to increase revenue and reduce expenses. This is really important, not only to me, but to our administration. We want to lower our fundraising costs. This is something that I've heard time and time again from donors, and it is certainly something that we hear you, and we are working hard to do that. I think one of the things we've learned with the pandemic is how we can operate so much more efficiently, utilizing meeting platforms like Zoom, and also to lower costs for fundraising with events, using a virtual hybrid method. We're going to find efficiencies wherever possible. As I mentioned, we've already started to scale up events from coast to coast so that we're not reinventing the wheel, and the marketing team doesn't have to redo all of the marketing materials. We just scale it up, offer the same types of events and programming in different centers across the country. We're centralizing operations. We're minimizing the admin functions of our other offices in different parts of the country so that things are more centralized in the national office, thereby freeing up our staff time to do what they're so good at, which is fundraising. We're empowering the staff and the volunteers. I'm spending much of my time mentoring and coaching both staff and volunteers, as well as empowering the staff to be accountable and to really appreciate and understand how important their role is in the organization and what a difference that they make in helping to raise the funds that we so badly need. We're creating an overall culture of philanthropy and transparency. Our financials will be available for you to view on our website, the full financial statement. It's very important to me that our donors understand exactly, what our costs are and all of our fundraising methods. And this is part of best practices. So a culture of philanthropy and transparency is critical. We'll be goal setting with centers and chapters and giving them the opportunity to have fundraising pages and be able to see their how quickly they can reach their goals. And if they're falling short of any goals, then they have the opportunity to modify their fundraising strategy so that they can reach their goals before the end of the fiscal year. What our vision is to become the first Canadian Jewish women's Zionist organization engaging in social impact investing through a gender lens. This is something that's very exciting. It's cutting edge and it's coming to CHW. And of course, we always dedicate ourselves to improving the lives of women and children, both here in Canada and in Israel. We're repurposing successful initiatives, as I said, from coast to coast. As Elena mentioned, my goal is to break down silos across the country. I've got center presidents talking, to each other across the country. We have volunteers talking to each other across the country. And certainly the impetus for all of that was the SOS campaign, which so successfully brought the organization together nationally. We want donors to be able to direct their giving to what matters to them the most, whether it's healthcare, education, or social services. That's how you empower donors to give. We want to grow the endowment fund, and we want to secure more Legacy Circle members, because really that's the future of the organization. It provides the organization with sustainability that it so needs. We want to engage a younger generation of donors and their commitment. We want to outreach to the community through our Canadian partners, such as Canadian Young Judea, and get them involved in CHW because they're our future. We'll always be proud of our grassroots start over 100 years ago, and even prouder of how far we can go to change lives, provide hope, and build futures together. That's my presentation, and I thank you so much.
Wow. There's so much going on. My head spins when I listen to all this. Thank you so much, Lisa. We are all excited for the future under your leadership and guidance. And of course, we all share your passion for our wonderful organization.
Thank you.
I'm about to make a very wordy motion, and the purpose is that the members of the corporation need to ratify all of the decisions made over the course of the last fiscal year. So here it goes. On behalf of the members of the corporation, I would like to move that all acts, contracts, bylaws, proceedings, appointments, elections, and payments enacted, made, done, and taken by the directors and officers of the corporation to the date hereof, as the same are set out or referred to in the resolutions of the Board of Directors, the minutes of the meeting of the Board of Directors, or in the financial statements of the corporation, are approved, sanctioned, and confirmed. So I will change my screen so I can see the voters. May I have a seconder? I see Lynn. We'll say Lynn Gilman. Thank you. Any discussion? Any opposition? Any abstentions? Therefore, looks like we're all in favor. Thank you. The motion is passed. And now, moment you've all been waiting for. I will now call upon our auditor, Fred Fuchs of Richter LLP, to present the draft audited financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Elena. It was definitely a wonderful presentation so far, and definitely what I'll present is not as exciting as what has been presented to date. Amazing, amazing ventures that the organization has been through and going through, and it's wonderful to see a great future. So let me just share my screen to find the presentation. I will do that. Okay. So first and foremost, what we're going to do is we're going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll go through the financial statements thereafter for purposes so we can quickly go through it at that point in time. What we do, these slides, some of you who've been at the AGMs in the past are fully aware of or fully familiar with, and just gives a general understanding of exactly what's transpired. So just in generality, the organization had a wonderful year. It definitely exceeded its revenues from the year before, definitely came out of the pandemic in a very, very strong position. As Lisa said, also was really, really supportive in looking at the expenditures and trying to make objective cuts, and also putting money into, I guess, programming or into events that are very important for the future of the organization on a go-forward basis. The first slide, which is presented, is the donation revenue analysis. And what we normally split it is between the national general gifts, the major gifts that are given, and the center gifts. We notice that the center gifts are down, but not as much as maybe was anticipated because, of course, of in-person events are down. The centers, as well as the organization, pivoted to deal with the pandemic world and was doing a lot of virtual events, which naturally did give rise to an increase in the revenue from the year before. Last year we had total donations of 4.2 million, and this year we're at 4,854,000. Included in the donations in fiscal 2021 is a wonderful gift of $1 million, Canadian amount being $1,298,000 from the Aubrey and Marla Dan Foundation, and in addition a donation of $596,000 from the state of Marion Seymour that was received in the year June 30th, 2021. The year before, there was also, of course, the donation from the Aubrey and Marla Dan Foundation in the amount of $1 million US. This year's was the third of a 5-year commitment that we're excited to see, and will show extremely well in the financial fluidity and the support and the overall strength of the organization, which we'll show you in a few minutes. And by the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to definitely to highlight any in the chat or in the questions and answers. The CHW annual goal and versus actual, these are the donations that we've given with respect to projects. WIZO, we have a goal was 316,000. We've contributed $182,000. The commitment is on a calendar year, and there is continuing support for WIZO throughout the second part of 2021, and we will achieve the goal of the $316,000. The Shamir Medical Center, which was a $432,000 goal, it was achieved. The Hadassah Hospital, which had a goal of $605,000, of which we've given by the end of June 30, 2021, $510,000. There is an amount that was subsequently issued, a check-in amount of $100,000 that was issued in July 2021. The Hadassah Academic College, which was $100,000, we met our commitment. Canadian Young Judea, Jerome D. Diamond, the Italian Technical High School, and the specific gifts, which we'll get to in a second, will go down, is in point number 3. So the WIZO, we have given, there was a specific gift for $8,000. With the Shamir Medical Center, Safra Fed was $162,541. The Hadassah Academic College, $44,905, and Canadian Young Judea, $241,452. In the statement of operations, which is showing the results of the year with respect to the year of 2021, we see that we have great growth, number one, from both the revenue and reduced expenditures on a go-forward basis, as well as growth within our funds that we hold on in place with both CIBC and separate funds for the Aubrey and Marla Dan Foundation funds. So in the year, we have donations in the amount of $4,854,000, which we highlighted before. We have investment income of $506,000, which is up from the year before, $349,000. The investment income came from the funds we hold with CIBC, which is a large portion of our funds, and investments for the Dan Family Foundation funds as well. The income which was generated in the endowment fund is then transferred over to the general fund for either commitments that we have, as well as some of the funds are used for operations, are entitled to be used for operations as well. There's a few life insurance policies that came in during the year in the amount of plus $8,000. And the big item, which is, of course, is our fair value of adjustments of investments. So our marketable securities and the funds that we hold have increased in value from last year to this year by $1,460,000. Those of you who are following the stock market fully cognizant of this fact, the year before in 2020, there was a major downturn. Once a pandemic hit the world, there was a major downturn in the market, and that's why we have a decrease in the amount of $167,000. But this year, the markets elevated themselves, and we're able to see a wonderful increase of $1,460,000 in the portfolio that we hold. The expenses in the projects we discussed before, publicity, fundraising, and education has gone down by approximately $200,000. Various reasons for that. Number one is, as we said, is very few in-person events, and as such, the costs with respect to in-person events are down, and as well as there's less trips being made to Israel or to across Canada by management and by the president. So therefore, again, there's reductions in costs with respect to that as well. Administrative costs are up somewhat with respect to some headhunting fees, mainly professional fees in the year, but the rest of the expenses are in line. And the rest of the expenses, be it you can see naturally because of the pandemic, the expenses for traveling for the board and for national leadership is down from $52,000 to $2,000, giving rise to an excess of revenue over expenses for the general fund of $604,000, and for the endowment fund, $2.8 million, close to $2.8 million, a total increase of $3.3 million in the year versus $875,000 last year. One of the items that we always highlight is our fundraising ratio. We've always talked about not trying to exceed on an annual basis at 30%, including events that are taking place on both the national and central levels. In June 30, 2020, our fundraising amount ratio was 21%, and in June 30, 2021, it's a remarkable 14.1%. Statement changes of fund balances is basically taking the statement of operations, adding it or deducting it from the opening balances. In our case, we're adding it, which is wonderful to see, giving us a balance at the end of the year of our funds of $13,168,941, an increase over last year of $9.8 million, so an increase of over $3 million. Statement of financial position. We have cash held at the end of the year of close to $1,132,000. Last year, there was cash of $3,003,000. Of that $3 million was basically we had cash in some investments. So the investment amount below was decreased by that amount, which we'll get to in a second for a comparative basis. We have less short-term investments this year. Most of our money is invested. Prepaid expenses are down due to some costs that were accrued for last year that we do not have this year. And the accounts receivable is relatively, we'll get to in a second when we get to the financials, but it's mainly there's some donations that were received based on pledges. They're received at the end of the year for June 30th that were basically either cashed in the first few weeks of July 2021. So we have set them up as basically as receivable, but they're all basically all they've all been cashed in and those receivables have been collected. there's also a certain amount of GST or HST receivable as well. Due from the endowment fund is offset, which we'll see in a second. I'll just show you by the due to general fund. It's just an intra-fund balance. It doesn't represent, with regard to the overall totals, as anything. State of Israel bonds, the final State of Israel bonds were cashed in the year. We have no longer any State of Israel bonds held. Our investments are now close to $12 million. Last year, as we mentioned, was $6 million plus above in the cash, $3 million. So in comparative purposes, we were 12 million last year, we were at 9 million. We have exceeded our investments by about $3 million. Property, plant, and equipment is just office equipment, furniture and fixtures, some computers. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities was additional costs incurred as we're, last year we cut back on a lot of costs due to the pandemic. Deferred contribution, part of the contract we have with the Marlon Aubrey Dan Family Foundation is that the funds that we receive that are earned in the year, we're allowed to spend them funds that are in the year, but only on a calendar basis. So as at June 30th, 2021, there was earnings of $209,000, and those funds will come into income in the year 2022. Overall, just to show again, the our unrestricted funds for the general fund is sitting at $1,238,000, and our endowment fund is sitting at $11,930,000. Total funds is $13,168,000 as fund balances. Are there any questions on the presentation? I think there's some people who've typed in. So Marla asked a question, is it possible that the expense ratio after year is so much lower than the prior year because of pivoting during COVID and therefore is expected to return? Excellent question. Definitely, I believe the expectation is, as Lisa said, you know, the organization is looking into a hybrid of both virtual and in-person type of fundraising events, and naturally, it's to be seen exactly how and where it's going to go in the future. Naturally, as I stated before, a lot of this has impacted was because of COVID. In particular, there was I know in Montreal there's a golf tournament in 2020 because this falls into the 2021 calendar year, sorry, because it took place after our June 30th, 2020. There was no golf tournament last year. The next question, where does the $3 million increase in investments come from? Number one is, of course, the increase in the market value of $1.5 million practically. And the second part is we received the $1.3 million to the endowment fund from the Marla and Dan Family Foundation. So they gave rise to about 2.8 of the $3 million. The rest of it is because of other increases of earnings, et cetera, that we have in play. Are there any other questions? Oh, yes, sorry. Okay, thank you. Actual year.
Okay.
So let me now go to the financials.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, because we are approving the financials that need to be seen by the body. Let me just unshare and then reshare. Okay, so do you see the financials? Just I hope so. Okay, so first and foremost, we have our auditor's report. It's a clean opinion. There's no qualification with respect to it, which is nice to see. We went through already the statement of financial position and the fund balances, as well as the statement of operations. Statement of cash flow basically shows the ins and outs of what the funding was done, what was used, what the funds were used for in the year, the sources and uses of funds. In particular, what we've gone through already, you know, we have some investments. Purchase investments doesn't necessarily mean that we purchased 5.9. It's just a shift in the portfolio itself. The broker will sell, and as well as the funds that we have will move from one type of fund to another. We have our notes of financial statement. Just want to highlight just a few. Government assistance, we basically have applied because I think maybe some of you will ask or aware, we have applied for some government assistance programs. During the year, we have applied for Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. for employers. It amounted to about $88,000. Year before we got $79,000. And also to tell you that we received some rental subsidies as well from the government under the pandemic programs in play. Accounts receivable we talked about before. We have donations. We have accrued interest receivable, and we also have government remittances that are basically HST. We have also, just so you're aware, we do have policies that we have which are not recorded as assets for the organization in the amount of $922,000 for which we're beneficiary of. Deferred contribution we mentioned as well. This is our lease commitments. And this is, we've gone through the projects as well. And these are just some of the expenses highlighted. As Lisa mentioned, the statements will be, I guess, placed somewhere that people who do want to see them can get hold of them. So a question was asked, any bad debts on donations receivable, what is percentage collection? We do not accrue pledges. So that's first and foremost. Normally in Canada, pledges are not contractual legal obligation, and therefore we're not required to and do not accrue pledges that are out there. We do accrue pledges for which we've received the funding by the year end, and therefore that's the $122,000 that was received in July. But overall, we do not. If somebody has given us a pledge over a period of time, we record it as the funds are received. Are there any other questions? Let me stop sharing. We're back.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fred. We always
My pleasure.
appreciate your explanations to help make these statements understandable. At this time, I will call upon our board treasurer, Marcia Glick, to present the motion to approve the financial statements.
Thank you, Elena. Had to unmute there. On behalf of the members of the corporation, I move that the financial statements of the corporation for the fiscal year ended 2020 to 2021, together with the report of the corporation's auditors thereon, be approved. May I have a second? Do you see this? Thank you, Brandel. Is there any discussion? Okay. Is there any opposition? Any abstentions? So all in favor, raise your hand, please. The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. At this time, I would like to thank Fred for joining us today and unfortunately invite him to remove himself from the meeting now. Thank you very much, Fred.
Thank you very much.
Is he still there? Okay. The board of directors recently met to review 3 proposals for the 2021-2022 audit as presented by the firms of Crowe, Soberman LLP, Richter LLP, and Fruitman Cates LLP. The board of directors approved a motion to appoint Fruitman Cates LLP to be our auditors for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. On behalf of the members of the corporation, I move that Fruitman Cates LLP Chartered Accountants be appointed auditors of the corporation to hold office until the next annual meeting of members at such remuneration as may be fixed by the board of directors. May I have a seconder? Thank you, Stephanie. Is there any opposition? I don't see any opposition. Are there any abstentions? Don't see any abstentions. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you very much. The motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. I pass it over to Elena.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Marcia. Before we adjourn today's meeting, is there any new business arising that should be raised? Again, we welcome you to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If there's anything else, as I always say, questions, comments, complaints, now would be the time.
Oh, Marla is asking
Okay.
what precipitated the change in auditor.
Okay, Marcia, as treasurer, would you like that one or would you like me to reply?
I guess we felt it was time to give it out to tender because it was very expensive. And we were right. It was a huge difference in the prices quoted. And we felt that an audit is an audit. We didn't have to have an expensive name on our audit. And also Lisa has worked with Fruitman Cates in the past and is was very pleased with what the service that they provided. So that was very important. Does that answer the question?
I'm also going to add, Marcia, that in hiring our director of finance and operations, we brought more management in-house, whereas in the past there was a real reliance on Richter to provide some management experience and help to provide ongoing advice through the course of the year. Because we have in-house expertise now, we felt that the added costs weren't warranted. And Fruitman Cates, as Marcia mentioned, is a firm that I've worked with very successfully over the past 10 years, are always available for questions or any as needs arise for the organization at a fifth of the cost of what we were paying. I think there's another question.
Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, no, sorry, there's no other questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other business arising? Anything anybody else would like to say or ask a question? It's your chance. We're so thrilled to have coast to coast supporters across the country with us today. So thank you for being with us. All right, so if there's no further business arising, I would like to thank you all for your continued support of CHW despite these trying times. Thanks to you and all CHW supporters, we have played a vital role in strengthening the fabric of Israeli society. Entering my second year of my term, I know just how much your support affects the lives of women and children in our Jewish homeland and here in Canada. Together, we are making changes that not only empower women and children, but we create hope and build futures. I would like to make a motion now to adjourn today's AGM. May I have a seconder? I see Tova's hand up. Thank you, Tova. I'm sure there's not going to be any discussion about that. So, any opposition? Any abstentions? Therefore, I think we're all in favor to carry on with our day. The motion is passed. I want to thank you all again for joining us today and enjoy the rest of your weekend.